Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. I've been obsessed with lettering in a 70s inspired style recently, and I even created an entire brush set to level up my process for creating these lettering pieces that you can actually find linked down below. So today I'm going to walk you through my process for approaching each piece, as well as methods for lettering in general. I'm going to adapt my style a bit to make it super beginner friendly, so if you're telling yourself you can't letter or you don't have nice handwriting or whatever, don't worry about it. You're wrong, because I'm going to show you techniques in this video to get you a piece that you love. And this video can apply to any lettering style or decade. I'll just be honing in on the 70s today. Don't forget to subscribe if you want to see more videos like this one. Alright, so let's get into it.
I could wait a long, long time to prove that I am true. I hope you believe me. I will stay and never go away. Another time.
So I've done enough 70s inspired pieces that I have a good idea of the kinds of styles I want to try, but I normally like to start with turning to Pinterest or related websites for inspo whenever I go to create something for the first time. I created a dedicated board for the 70s to give you ideas that I'll link below as well. There's some font inspo, vintage posters from the 70s, and then art inspired by that decade. Lots of fun digging into the archives a bit to actually see 70s typography and whatnot. So for almost all of my lettering pieces, I create a 3000 by 3000 sized canvas at 300 dpi. And I'm actually going to create two different pieces in this video, so you can see how I use virtually the same process to create two very different pieces. So before moving into Procreate, I'm actually going to head into a different app called Affinity Designer. And this is because I'm going to actually manipulate fonts to get a lettering style that I want and that is unique. You can use fonts, of course, in Procreate, but Procreate currently does not support glyphs. So certain fonts have glyphs, aka different versions of the same letter, and I want to use some of those in a font that I purchased. So without making things too difficult for myself, I'm just going to type the phrase I want to letter, and then look at the glyphs available for certain letters using Affinity Designer.
In times like these, I wish I could fly. When life comes to me.
And then once I have something I like, I can export it to the Files app and then pull that into Procreate. I'm hoping to release more dedicated tutorials soon on Affinity Designer, so be sure to subscribe if you're interested in future videos that feature the app. Alright, so once I have that in Procreate, I like to manipulate the font to try and give it a different look. So I'll use the selection tool, and if you swipe with 3 fingers, you can create separate pieces of the same layer. And this makes it really easy to move and manipulate the individual layers. So since I pulled this font in as an image, it's not kind of acting as text would normally in Procreate. I like to create a lot of movement in pieces like this instead of having the phrase kind of all in one straight line.
I'm only waiting for a new day. Is this what I have to do to be part of my dreams? Or so it seems.
If you go to the magic wand, you can actually use the liquefy feature, and under the push option, kind of move the letters around a bit and explore the different ways of creating something pretty unique with the lettering style. Of course, you can freehand how you want your phrase to look, but again, I want to make this beginner friendly for those who may not feel as confident in their lettering abilities. I've found that my free-handed lettering has improved massively by practicing these techniques with fonts.
Kathleen said she had some things of mine, a chair, a book, and a little gray piece of paper. She thought it was a poem I wrote.
Alright, so once I finally get a look that I like, I normally go over it on a new layer. Here's where you can really make it even more unique by doing kind of like a skeleton technique where you trace kind of the core of the letter and then build it up from there. I like doing this when I want to add more or less weight to a specific letter, or if I want to go in and add serifs to a font that doesn't already have feet. The second technique you can use is kind of an additive or subtractive process where you go in and add more to the letter by coming in with the line a little bit to remove pieces, or you can come out on the other side of the letter to add more to it. And truly this is the best way to see how shapes come together and form when you are first getting started with a different lettering style than your own handwriting.
And Tommy was the best thing that ever happened. Guess the guys I used to hang with are all growing up now too. Nah, 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 nah. All the colors are long gone.
But anyway, once I have the letters how I like, I've really been into more textured looks for these pieces, so I like shading these letters in by hand instead of doing the color drop technique.
Colors are long gone. Nah, 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 nah. Kathleen said she had some things of mine. A chair, a book, a little great piece of paper.
And once I have the letters in place, it's really just a guessing game for me from here on out. Sometimes I don't really have a vision for these pieces and they sort of just come together eventually through trial and error. My go-to is usually duplicating the lettering layer and changing the color to create kind of a chunky shadow or outline of the phrase. You can tap the layer actually and hit select and then create a new layer, and then you can fill that layer with whatever color you choose. And I also created several color palettes that I can fall back on for these kind of pieces. And I honestly just try it out a bit. I know I like these colors together, it's just kind of a matter of finding the perfect balance of everything. So my process for this again is entirely random, just testing out a few different colors and different shadow features, different outline features. I also noticed a lot of similar motifs in 70s art, so I created stamp brushes that are available in the 70s lettering brush set. And again, I don't have much of a process for this. I normally gravitate toward framing the phrase by adding elements along the edges because I do want the phrase to be kind of the main focal point of the piece. The rest is just simply additive. So I actually created this more groovy flower floral stamps, and you can use alpha lock or a clipping mask to either color these stamps or add texture. I'm a huge fan of the vintage monoweight brush for adding texture as well. I'm also using the funky motifs to add a little something else to this, and similarly to the phrase itself, I'm tying in that shadow effect by doing layer duplication. Using Alpha Lock, I am able to decorate those motifs and kind of make it a bit more interesting. You can access Alpha Lock by tapping on any layer. And then because I thought I needed something else, I went in and added a few sparkles around the phrase. If you ever think your lettering is missing something, sparkles and something kind of floral is normally my go-to. This was a phrase that one of my Instagram followers actually sent in when I asked for suggestions for a quote over there last week, so go ahead and follow me on the gram if you haven't already for access to things like this. Now I want to take you through my process again, but for an entirely different piece. So we'll be lettering the almost cliche make love not war quotes. Great message though. And since we're lettering the 70s, we have to do this quote, you know? So grab your iPad and Apple Pencil. I won't chat much during this bit, so you can really just relax and focus now on creating this piece, now that you kind of know my overall process for when I letter in Procreate. Of course, you don't need to use Affinity Designer like I did in the first step of the first piece that we did. Just use that in my last piece to get specific lists from the font, but of course you can use fonts as they are directly in Procreate.
Obvious now, finally, I know you're gonna underplay it, but it's time to move on from this. We're derailing, and we're not what we used to be. So life is different than we imagined it would be. We're not the first, we're not the last. While others may be restless too, we were always far ahead, me and you. And it's obvious now, finally, I know you're gonna underplay it, but it's time to move on from this. We're derailing, and we're not what we used to be. Underplay
I hope you enjoyed today's tutorial. If you end up using these techniques to letter the 70s, be sure to tag me at KDigitalStudio on Instagram. I'd love to see what you create. While you can use any Procreate brushes for your 70s lettering piece, if you want to specifically pick up the set I created for when I letter the 70s, you can pick it and the color palettes up in the shop, which is linked in the description box below. Don't forget to like this video, comment below what other Procreate tutorials you'd love to see, and stay groovy, baby. I'll see you next week with another video.